Hello YouTubers out there, this is Jerry Saravia at the movies. So today we're talking about 1989 films that I saw in theaters. Many more films I have seen that I will not be discussing, only because I saw them on video much later on. But these are quite a few of them. So let's start off right away with When Harry Met Sally, stars Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal, and directed by Rob Reiner, written by Nora Ephron. This is one of the best, most sophisticated romantic comedies you will ever see, particularly in the last 30 to 40 years now. I would say this is pretty much almost like a Woody Allen type comedy, but with Billy Crystal and everyone else, it's not nearly as neurotic, perhaps, as some of Woody Allen's pictures, but this is a very entertaining movie. The two leads are fantastic. This is some of the best work they have ever done, as far as I'm concerned. And one of Rob Reiner's very best films, aside from, let's say, This is Spinal Tap. So, if you haven't seen When Harry Met Sally, of course it's got, you should check it out, and of course it's got that famous restaurant sequence where she shows that a woman can achieve orgasm and fake it. So, yeah, great movie. Alright, let's move on. War of the Roses. This one is a very black comedy with Michael Douglas, Kathleen Turner, Danny DeVito. Of course, you know, all three of them have appeared in Romancing the Stone. I think Danny DeVito was also in Jewel of the Nile, but I don't remember. I have a feeling not. But nonetheless, this is a very black comedy film. I mean, when I say black, I mean it is dark. It's got a very dark ending, but justified. I've seen the film a few times. It does work. Both leads are, all three of the main leads are terrific in it. It may be just a little too dark for conventional tastes. It's directed by Danny DeVito, but definitely worth checking out. The ending was spilled by, because there is certainly, the dark ending is spilled, it's a twist. It was spilled by Arsenio Hall when he interviewed Michael Douglas on his show, and I think Danny DeVito, I think they were both on the same show, I'm not sure. So, yeah, they both got mad at him for doing that, but it wasn't the biggest box office hit, but certainly good, but very dark. Stepfather 2, subtitled Make Room for Daddy for advertising, but actually it's just called Stepfather 2, when in fact maybe it should have been called Make Room for Daddy. Anyway, this is the sequel to the 1987 film The Stepfather. Of course, it stars Terry Quinn. He's Bad Daddy all over again. This is not nearly as good as the first film. It's actually a cheaper production overall, but some of it is effective, and Terry O'Quinn was quite good in it. You'll spot Caroline Williams in this picture, who you may know from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, amongst other pictures, and also Meg Foster, who's been in everything from V to, goodness, what is it called? The one with They Live by John Carpenter. So, yeah, definitely worth checking out, but not nearly in the same league as the original. The Phantom of the Opera stars Robert Englund and, of course, my buddy Jill Schoelen. And it's the only Jill Schoelen film I actually have seen in theaters. I've seen other films by Robert Englund. It's a very uneven film. It's not the best. It's very grisly. It's more, at times, it feels more like it's closer to Freddy Krueger type stuff than, you know, the original Phantom of the Opera, at least as we know best, probably from Lon Chaney back in the 1920s, but it's alright. It's just not that great. Jill Schoelen is pretty good in the picture, although she doesn't actually sing, even though you see her singing. Someone else double for her, but she does know how to sing, by the way. So, Parenthood, one of Steve Martin's best movies. Great ensemble cast. Rick Moranis, Jason Robards, Mary Steenburgen. It's a great domestic family drama, done very well. Keanu Reeves, Diane Wiest. Geez, it's a great cast. In fact, even Joaquin Phoenix is in it, under a different name. At that time, Leaf Phoenix, but that was a pretty good film. I liked Parenthood a lot. It's been remade as a television series twice, but pretty good film. It's very enjoyable. It's almost a perfect little domestic drama, I would say. So, alright, let's move on to Sea of Love with Al Pacino. This was directed by Harold Becker. John Goodman is also in the picture. Michael Rooker. Pretty good film. Ellen Barkin. I liked it a lot. I'm not sure the reveal of the killer was the best. It's got an early cameo performance by Samuel L. Jackson, but it is a good film. Al Pacino is great in it. He can play a cop like nobody else can, and he's a New York City cop. I mean, I think it was New York City. So, yes, I've seen the film a couple of times. It has some interesting twists to the usual type of cop thriller, although this is now considered American neo-noir, so I don't know. Things have changed. We just used to think of these type of films, particularly in the 80s, as thrillers, but nonetheless, Sea of Love, definitely worth checking out. Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, is the fifth, of course, in the Freddy Krueger franchise. Again, this was shot a little cheaply, and they had a limited budget, which is weird considering how huge this franchise was. Freddy Krueger was a big thing. Nightmare on Elm Street 5 was shot very quickly. It was a rushed schedule, and they didn't really allow time to make the improvements that are necessary. But it is pretty good. It's all right. It's better than Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. So I'll give it that. The original poster had Freddy Krueger holding not a baby carriage in that sphere, but it was a actual baby, and that was considered a little too much. And it does deal with some teenage problems, like the abortion issues brought up and things like that. So it's they still stuck true to certain things. Beatrice Bopple, I think is how you pronounce her name, Canadian actress, plays Amanda Krueger, who I've interviewed, and Freddy Krueger's mom. So there's some good things in it. It's just not, could have been a much better movie. New York Stories is the kind of thing we don't really see much of anymore. It's a drama anthology with a little bit of comedy thrown in. Of course, it's by three different directors: Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, and Woody Allen. The Woody Allen one is fairly funny, although not the greatest. The Coppola version, which is about Zoe, is just not good. It's not one I would watch again. I have the DVD. But Martin Scorsese's Life Lessons is great, with Nick Nolte and Roseanne Arquette. Steve Buscemi is also in that. Blondie, the story of a painter. It was really well done. That probably should have been a feature-length film as opposed to just a short. But anyway. All right, My Left Foot. It's a true story of Christy Brown, a individual who unfortunately had cerebral palsy, but managed to paint. It's got Daniel Day-Lewis. It's the first major Daniel Day-Lewis film I've ever seen. He is fantastic in it, and very dramatic, very sad, at times quite funny. It's by the Irish director Jim Sheridan. It's one of his best films for sure, outside of In the Name of the Father. I would highly recommend My Left Foot if you haven't seen it, especially if you like Daniel Day-Lewis. All right, The Mighty Quinn. Now, this one is an unusual comedy. It's sort of, I'm not sure it's all comedy. It's definitely partly thriller. It's got Denzel Washington and Robert Townsend. I believe it's set in Jamaica. And, of course, it's got that song, The Mighty Quinn, which I like. And I can't tell you a whole lot more than that. It's been a long time since I've seen the film. I only saw it that once back in 1989, so I can't tell you the particulars, but I would like to watch that again. It was good and very unusual type of movie, I think. Lethal Weapon 2 is, of course, the sequel to 1987's Lethal Weapon. Richard Donner is, of course, on board again as a director. You got Mel Gibson, Danny Glover, Darlene Love, etc., etc. Joe Pesci, of course, as a mob accountant. Oh no, was it a mob accountant? No, I think he's an accountant for the South African diplomats. I can't even remember now. But it's really quite good. It's I think South African diplomats are the villains in this one. And, of course, their interest is money. Well, what else would they be interested in? But I really enjoy it. It's a very energetic sequel. It's quite violent, but always entertaining. They developed the characters a bit more. And just overall, it's pretty much on an equal level with the original Lethal Weapon. One of the best sequels you'll ever see is Lethal Weapon 2. All right, let's move along to Lean on Me, directed by John G. Avildsen, who, of course, did Rocky, The Karate Kid, And this same summer, he also directed The Karate Kid Part 3, which I did not see in theaters. But I got to tell you, Karate Kid Part 3 is a good, bad movie. So it's one that I can't help but watch it. I don't know. It's extremely watchable, but not a good one. Lean on Me is, again, not a bad film. I think that it starts off strong. I think then it resorts to hints of melodrama and stuff that would be better off in a TV movie as opposed to a theatrical release. Morgan Freeman plays Joe, who's this school teacher who has ideas about discipline. And he goes to a school that is in bad shape, and Joe Clark, I believe is the name of the guy, I think he passed away, and he wields a baseball bat, just like walking tall, and he means business, and he changes things around. So it's a very inspiring story. Well done, well executed, but I think it has maybe a little too much plot when it deals with the mother of one of the kids that was expelled from the school and that sort of thing. But it is well made. I will say that. Morgan Freeman is excellent, so definitely worth checking out. All right. Let's see where we are here. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Of course, all of you who have checked out my channel know I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan. This was, of course, the third collaboration, and at the time was meant to be the last collaboration between director Steven Spielberg, creator George Lucas, and star Harrison Ford. And it's got Sean Connery as Indy's dad. This is probably my favorite sequel of the whole bunch, for sure. It's just dynamite all the way around. Of course, Nazis are back again. Spielberg had to apologize for making Temple of Doom, which is strange because Temple of Doom is certainly one of the very best action-adventure pictures you'll ever see. But Last Crusade adds weight. It develops the Indiana Jones character. It's got a great ending. I love the tank chase. I mean, there's just a lot of good stuff in this. I wouldn't say, though, it's nearly as masterful as Raiders of the Lost Ark, which to me is still the best. But definitely worth seeing. I was underwhelmed the first time I saw it, and then 2 days later I saw it again. So then I felt differently. And I'm sure with the newest Indiana Jones picture, I'll see it more than once when it comes out in 2023. Unless, of course, I hate it, in which case then I may decide to ignore it. But anyway, definitely, it started off the summer of 1989 with a bang. So, Heathers is, again, a very uneven movie. It seems to be a satire, then it seems to be sort of I don't know if you want to call it romantic comedy, and then it dovetails into something of a slasher picture. I don't know. It's just a strange movie, and then becomes a horror movie by the end. I don't know. The tone is all over the place on this film. I've seen it more than once, but it's the kind of film that I just feel like I need to take a shower after seeing it. Winona Ryder, Christian Slater, about a high school, and they decide this romantic couple, unlikely, of course, because even though Christian Slater seems cool, he is a killer, and they decide to kill some of the students that they don't like or have issues with, and it just becomes a mess. So I don't really place this very high on the Winona Ryder movie meter as far as good films from her. It's just too much of a mess. But I will say it's watchable, and you should see it at least once. And I don't think this movie could really be made the same way as it was back then, particularly after Columbine and, of course, the slew of unfortunate high school massacres we've had since. So, still don't know quite what to make of that movie. It's sort of like, if any of you remember Something Wild from 1986 with Ray Liotta and Melanie Griffith, Jeff Daniels. It's sort of like that, except at least when it switches, it's not nearly as abrupt as the switches in this movie. But I may have to see it again, so I probably will. Heathers. Okay. Very potent movie, no matter how you look at it. Harlem Nights is Eddie Murphy's directorial debut. It's actually the only film he's directed. And, thank God for that, because he's not a good director. I hate to say that. But he crafted sort of a 1930s gangster-type picture, again, an uneven movie, because although there's humor in the picture, it's cartoonish, but then there are moments when it seems serious, and then other moments when it's too cartoonish, and other moments when it's too comedic, and then too dramatic and too serious, and the tone is all over the place on this film as well. But I would recommend Heathers highly over Harlem Nights. Richard Pryor is in it. It's the only time Eddie Murphy appeared with Richard Pryor. There's a bunch of other actors in this. Jasmine Guy, and I know I'm forgetting some other people, Danny Aiello, but it's mediocre. If you like Eddie Murphy, you should see it maybe once, but he's done far better than Harlem Nights. So I think Della Reese, I think, is also in it. I know I'm forgetting somebody else, but nonetheless. All right. Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. This is a better sequel than Halloween 4. This is also maybe a movie I shouldn't have seen in a theater. But there you go. Of course, it's the 5th installment, or maybe the 4th if you don't count Halloween 3. It's a poor film. It's not very well made, but it's certainly a little more frightening than the Halloween 4, which isn't saying very much. Halloween 4 is one of the worst. I don't know what else to say. Michael Myers sheds a tear in this movie. So there you have it. You have Danielle Harris, who appeared in Halloween 4 and 5, and in Rob Zombie's Halloween. She's actually a much better actress, I think, than what she was given to do as a child in these movies. It's just not. It just doesn't seem appropriate that a child would be pursued by Michael Myers. But there you go. All right, we'll leave that one alone. So next with Fletch Lives, a terrible film. It's a very poor sequel to the original, which I really love. Chevy Chase is, of course, back as Fletch. This is not based on any of the Fletch novels. This was completely created out of whole cloth, but obviously not nearly as good. It's more of a Southern Gothic type picture. Again, not clear if it's really meant to be a comedy, because none of it is really very funny. There are moments or stretches, long stretches of this movie that have a lot of caricatures and stereotypes from the South. And there's the KKK, and it just doesn't, it's just not funny. And, he wakes up, Chevy Chase as Fletch, next to a woman that he made love to the previous night, and she's dead, and all he could say is, well, she was good, but not that good. It seems off. They didn't really understand the Fletch character. It was really a big disappointment, I think. There are a couple of good, funny moments, but no. This is among Chevy Chase's worst. All right, Field of Dreams. Kevin Costner. This is a great baseball flick. It's a fantasy film. Now that actual Field of Dreams baseball park, which was created, is a place where they actually play baseball now. So it's really amazing. It's become part of the pop culture. I love Field of Dreams. I love the twists in it. I love the surprise element. You never know where it's going. It's directed by Phil Alden Robinson, who did a film back in 1987 called In the Mood, which I like a lot. This movie is just fantastic. Kevin Costner, one of his best roles ever. Amy Madigan plays his wife. They're both liberals. They don't believe in banning books. And anyway, they live on a farm, and he hears a voice in the wheat fields, or cornfields, rather. And slowly but surely, their voices are telling him to build a baseball park, and have all these ghosts from the Chicago White Sox come back. So it's really terrific. Ray Liotta is in it as Shoeless Joe Jackson. You also got Frank Wiley. Of course, James Earl Jones as an author. All of it is terrific. Burt Lancaster appears. It's a magical movie. I just love this film. It's a great music score. Yes, this would be a great double bill with The Natural, with Robert Redford. Both of these films. So if you love baseball, especially, you'll love this movie, I think. But if you love movies, in particular, that take you places you never expected to go, this is a movie to see. It's kind of like a movie that I think Frank Capra would have loved to have made back in the day. All right, let's move on to The Fabulous Baker Boys, which I do like. I don't think it's a great film, but it is a good film. It's got Beau Bridges and Jeff Bridges as brothers. Jeff Bridges is a oh God, I don't know if he plays the guitar or the piano, I forget. And they're part of a group that they go around to different bars and lounges and perform show tunes. They're kind of down on their luck a little bit, but they get Michelle Pfeiffer, a sultry singer, to sing, and she captivates the crowd. She sings Makin' Whoopee on the piano, or as she lays on the piano. I mean, it's stuff like that that makes the film a memorable experience. I don't think, I remember the audience reaction was a bit mixed. I'm not sure they really were into it, but it is a good film. If you give it, it takes its time to tell the story, but it's worth seeing. They're all three actors are great. And it was just nice to see Beau Bridges performing along with his brother Jeff Bridges. So, and it has, you're not sure about Jeff Bridges and Michelle Pfeiffer by the end of the film, whether they're going to be together or not. And so I like the film a lot. It's very well written, very, very good film. I should see it again someday. Enemies of Love Story is another one I should see again someday. I know I saw it again on video about a year or so later. This has Ron Silver, Angelica Houston, Lena Olin. It's a film directed by Paul Mazursky. Ron Silver plays a Holocaust survivor, and I think he's trying to make amends, and he gets involved with 3 different women. One of them is his wife. I don't remember a whole lot more than that. It's been so long since I've seen it, so I can't tell you much. I know I liked it. It's very dramatic. It's very... I remember liking it a lot, but I can't say much more. So I can't spend too much time discussing it if I don't remember the particulars. Driving Miss Daisy is a picture that I respect it. I admire it. I suppose it's a good film, but it shouldn't have won Best Picture of that year. I think that should have gone to Do the Right Thing, which unfortunately I did not see in theaters at the time. Nonetheless, it's, I believe, directed by Bruce Beresford, and it's got Morgan Freeman once again, Jessica Tandy, and, it deals with racism in a very remote, subtle way, which is not a bad thing, but compared to Do the Right Thing, which wasn't nominated for a single Oscar, other than, I think, Spike Lee's script, but I could be wrong. It just doesn't quite... Something about it is old-fashioned, and that's fine. Dan Aykroyd is in it. I think it's the only time he's been nominated for an Academy Award, but overall, I mean, I can't... I admire the picture, I guess is the best way to put it. It's certainly worth seeing, for sure, but it's just not one of my favorites. Certainly not of that year. But anyway. Dead Poets Society is a picture, once again, I admire. I do like it. Robin Williams is terrific in it. You also have, it's just a great cast overall. I like all the kids that attend this private school back in the I think it's the late 1950s, early 60s. And it's well done, but somehow I can't quite connect with it. I don't know what it is about Dead Poets Society. It's sort of like Robin Williams' other film, Awakenings. I mean, I admire that film. I like it. I think it's good. I just don't connect with it. I don't know what it is. I don't feel indifferent, but I don't register with the kids, especially in this movie where they all stand up at the end and on their desks. And I thought, well, that's a movie moment, not necessarily a realistic moment. And... because Robin Williams is more of an iconoclast as far as a teacher is concerned, and he doesn't believe that poetry can be measured one way or another. It's just, what comes from your heart. And that's a good message, and it's well done. And there are some emotional scenes. It's probably better than I'm remembering it. It's been a while since I've seen it. But, a respectable production directed by Peter Weir, who also did Witness and... The Mosquito Coast and so on, but yeah. Dead Calm is a thriller with Nicole Kidman and Sam Neill. It's directed by the Australian Philip Noyce, who's done, I think, better movies. This one I just didn't, again, this one I was indifferent to. I mean, it's a good setup for a thriller. It's based on a novel that originally Orson Welles was going to make, and I think he shot most of it, but the negative got away from him somehow, called The Deep back in the day in 1970. But this movie, again, was an underwhelming thriller, but there are some good moments, so I don't know. Maybe someday I'll take a look at it again. I remember I had a journalism class I was taking at St. John's University at that time, and I wrote about this movie, and the professor, Frank Brady, who wrote a book called Citizen Wells, by the way, disagreed with my review, but nonetheless, we can't all agree on the same things. So, but, Nicole Kidman, if you like Nicole Kidman, you should definitely check it out. Cyborg, no. Cyborg is a terrible film. I was never a fan of Van Damme at all. I just don't connect with this guy at all. I can't, he has the look, he has the charisma perhaps, but I suppose the presence, but he's just not made good movies. I mean, I can't think of a single film by Van Damme that I liked, that I've seen. And Cyborg is one of the worst. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing the director's name right, Albert Payan, perhaps. But I didn't care for it. I would have just as well not have seen this in a movie theater. I can't tell you a thing about it. I don't remember what it's about other than cyborgs. So, Crimes and Misdemeanors, that's a different take entirely from the opposite end of quality. Woody Allen's picture that is a perfect blend of drama and humor. Not necessarily comedy, but definitely humor. Martin Landau, one of the greatest performances he's ever given. One of the finest performances in years. I mean, this is a really great performance that he should have won the Oscar for. He was nominated. And he plays an ophthalmologist, and he's married, but he gets into an affair with Angelica Houston, who plays a flight stewardess, and things get rough, and she wants him to admit that he's having this affair, and he decides to get a hitman to kill her. So the morality of it and how it affects him is definitely the structure of the movie. And Woody Allen plays a documentary filmmaker who his wife hates him, and Alan Alda plays, I believe he plays a producer or something of that nature, who doesn't like him either. So that stuff, in addition to Mia Farrow, also in the picture. But it's a nice counterpoint to Martin Landau. And spoiler alert, but why not? Martin Landau gets away with it, and he says you just have to move on at some point. And I think that angered some people, that ending to Crimes and Misdemeanors. But it's one of the greatest films by Woody Allen, up there with Annie Hall as far as I'm concerned. Although there are apples and oranges, but still. Cousins is a remake of a French comedy, and it stars Ted Danson and Isabella Rossellini. Lloyd Bridges is also in the picture. I remember liking the movie a lot. I think some people may have a little issue with the fact that they are cousins and they have a love affair, and I think they get married. But so it may not be for everybody, the subject matter, but it's pretty good. It was funny. I don't know if it's better than the remake, or than the original rather. This is a remake of it, but I think it does work as well as it can, I guess. I don't know how else to put it. A better romantic comedies, chances are, was Sybil Shepherd, Ryan O'Neal, Robert Downey Jr., Mary Stuart Masterson. I love this movie. It's a very funny movie. It deals with the soul of, I think it was an attorney who was ready to prosecute some mobsters, I believe, and a judge was involved, something of that nature, and he's killed, but he's supposed to be injected with something when he's in heaven, so he doesn't reincarnate. And of course he does, as Robert Downey Jr., and Robert Downey Jr. wants to be a reporter, work for, the Washington Post and all that stuff. And but the woman that this attorney had been with is Sybil Shepherd, and Robert Downey Jr. is dating Sybil Shepherd's daughter, and then when he sees Sybil Shepherd, somehow he makes this connection, and things go screwbally. It was a good film, very well done, very well made, very funny. I love Chances Are. It's a movie you could watch almost any time and still be floored by it. I like it a lot. Back to the Future Part 2. Of course, the sequel to the original Back to the Future, once again directed by Robert Zemeckis, Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd. I like the movie a lot better now than I did back then. When I first saw it, I was underwhelmed by it. I thought it was too dark. I didn't see the humor. But on subsequent viewings, I think the humor becomes more and more prominent, but it's still not nearly as good as the original Back to the Future. And I probably have a slight preference of Back to the Future Part 3 for sure over Part 2. But Part 2 is good. It's got a lot of paradoxes. It deals with time travel. Biff is more of a central character in this one, played by Thomas Wilson. And it's good. It was different. It was very different from the original, and that's something to be appreciated. Most sequels just do a rehash, but this one was different. So, yeah. All right, let's move on. Oliver Stone's Born on the 4th of July. One of the best films Oliver Stone ever did, and same with Tom Cruise, who played Kovic, Ron Kovic. He fought in Vietnam, and he was pro-war, and then he comes back from the war more anti-war than he ever was, and starts to see the issues with Vietnam and sending young kids to war. Powerful movie, powerful ending. I can't say enough. Willem Dafoe is also in the movie. You have a short, powerful cameo by Lily Taylor as well, and the conflicted Kovic dealing with not just the war itself and what it's done to him because he's paralyzed from the waist down, but also the fact that he mistakenly shot one of his own comrades, so to speak, or one of the soldiers that were there, that he thought was the enemy, and he shot the wrong person. So he has to deal with that, and the way he confronts that eventually, that reality, is very well done. It's an amazing movie. That's all I can say. One of my favorites by Oliver Stone. Batman. Batman came out that summer in '89, and let me tell you, Batman was pretty much like, if you didn't know any better, you thought that the bat signal was omnipresent, and that's all there was Batman. That's how big that movie was. That was huge. No other Batman film since has been as huge as the original Batman in terms of just overall being everywhere and anywhere. It just became a thing. It's hard to explain. It was very strange. Of course, that's Michael Keaton as Batman, who is doing a reprise for the movie The Flash, and I think he also did a reprise of the character for Batgirl, the movie that for some reason they've decided to shelve and not show to the public ever. So Jack Nicholson is the Joker, which is inspired casting. Jack Palance is also in the film, and Kim Basinger, and just a great cast. Not my favorite by Tim Burton by any stretch. I think I prefer Tim Burton when he deals with creating his own stories, but this one it's a good movie. It's well done. It's got a sonic boom to it. Everything in it is just swishes back and forth all around it. The art direction is amazing. But probably my favorite Batman film as of now is it might easily be Batman Begins and The Batman, which is the recent one with Robert Pattinson. So, but this one certainly is worth seeing. The sequels didn't quite do it justice. The sequels to this one, anyway, to 1989's Batman. So, all right, last on the list is Always. This is directed by Steven Spielberg. It's a remake of A Guy Named Joe from the 1940s, which starred Spencer Tracy and Richard Dreyfuss, John Goodman, Holly Hunter in it. Good cast. Not nearly as good as the following year's Ghost, which is a much better movie. But it is well done. It has a little bit of everything. I mean, you've got these firefighters, and they got their planes as they try to get rid of as many fires as they can. Some of that is intense stuff to watch. I like the love story between Dreyfuss and Hunter. And I like John Goodman as sort of this comical goofball. And it's just well done. It's a pretty good movie. Again, not one of my favorites by Spielberg, but definitely I've seen it a couple of times and I've always enjoyed it. I remember the first time I saw it a lot of people in the audience thought that Holly Hunter's character dies, and but that's not the case. But it seemed to give that impression during the climax. And she actually sees Richard Dreyfuss briefly. So who's the ghost who died? And it was one of the firefighter pilots. And yeah, good movie. I don't know if it's as good as Guy Named Joe, which is Steven Spielberg's favorite movie, but. And there you go. That's 1989. So that's all I got to say about the 1980s. 1990s, I will pursue discussing, but not until next year. I think in January I will start with that. Only because there are just so many that I I need time to think about it and what to say. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to my channel. Let me your thoughts if you saw any of these films in theaters at the time, and what you thought of them, or if there are any other 1989 flicks that you saw. Share some personal stories. I do have one about Enemies, a Love Story I forgot to mention earlier. I was living at that time in Port Washington, New York, which is on Long Island, and far north of Long Island, or on Long Island, I should say. So I saw it at this theater, and when I came out, a cop was asking me questions like, where were you? Because apparently it was some sort of robbery at one of the one of the stores on that block. And I said, I went to see Enemies, a Love Story. And you saw Enemies. Can I see your ticket? Like, he couldn't believe I saw Enemies, a Love Story. I guess, when you see this young kid at that time, it was 18, seeing a movie called Enemies, a Love Story, it just seems strange. But, oh well. That's my little story about that. All right. And that's all I got to say. So, that's it. And this is Jerry Saravia at the Movies, signing off.